I had the dream life. A loving wife, 2 bright kids, and a career most would kill for. Until one decision shattered it all. What would you do if the people you lived for turned their backs when you needed them the most? If you love deep, emotionally charged revenge stories, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. This is not just about getting even. It's about what a man becomes when he's got nothing left to lose. My name is Richard West, and they called me the calculator. Not exactly flattering, but in my field, it was the highest form of respect. As a senior accountant with Foster and Merrill in Toronto, I ran numbers with the precision of a brain surgeon. My clients ranged from small clinics to seven-figure corporations, and nothing ever slipped through my fingers. Numbers made sense. They were constant. Fair. You give, you get. You add, you subtract. Simple rules. People were the opposite. But I made peace with that contradiction when I met Caroline. She wasn't like the numbers. She was unpredictable, fiery, clever, a little chaotic, and God, I loved her for it. We met at 17, in the kind of whirlwind romance that makes older people roll their eyes and younger ones jealous. We stuck it out. Through school, jobs, rent, debt. She was studying fashion and I was drowning in ledgers. We married young. Too young, some said, but what did they know? They didn't see us slow dancing in our kitchen at midnight with bills stacked on the counter and empty ramen packets in the trash. They didn't know what it meant to build something from absolutely nothing. When I landed the job at Foster and Merrill, it felt like I could finally exhale. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't surviving, I was thriving. We bought a modest home in East York, renovated it from scratch. Caroline opened her handbag boutique online, Caro Luxe. I helped her set it up and also with the spreadsheets. She had taste. I had structure. It worked. We tried for kids for 5 long years. Nothing. Doctors, tests, treatments. Nothing. Until, somehow, Ryan arrived. Our miracle boy. Then, another 7 years later, Elsie completed our family. Just the 4 of us. Tight. Whole. I used to come home to Caroline with the kids piled on her, all of them laughing like the world had no claws. And I remember thinking, if there's a heaven, I already live in it. But here's what they don't tell you about heaven. It's not eternal. And sometimes, you don't even see the fire until everything's already burning. It started with an email which had the following. Subject, vision alignment and operational optimization. A bunch of corporate buzzwords hiding a knife. Foster and Merrill was streamlining, reshaping, embracing innovation. They wanted digitally native accountants who could leverage AI-driven tools to optimize performance. I was a dinosaur. Valuable, but replaceable. They offered me an early exit with a thin severance and a referral letter which had no meaning. I smiled. It's just business, I said, and walked out with my little box of things and a polite nod to the receptionist. When I got to my car, I didn't cry. I just sat. The steering wheel felt foreign under my hands. My ID card, now useless, still dangled from the rearview mirror. I had driven this same route for 15 years, sometimes cursing traffic, sometimes humming along to the radio. But now, for the first time, I sat there with nowhere to go. I was jobless. A middle-aged man who had been carefully replaced by younger, cheaper, shinier versions of himself. I thought about my next paycheck, or rather, the absence of it. How many months of mortgage payments could we cover with the severance? 2, 3, if we were careful. Groceries, tuition, insurance. The numbers stacked up in my head like a cruel equation I couldn't solve. When I finally turned the key and pulled out of the parking lot, the road blurred in front of me. I was supposed to be heading home, but what was home now? Would Caroline look at me with sympathy or disappointment? Would Ryan, my teenage boy with the sharp tongue, see me as weak? Would Elsie, sweet Elsie, still come running to me with her stories from school, or would she sense that her father wasn't the same man anymore? These thoughts swallowed me whole. My hands were on the wheel, but my mind was spinning somewhere else. And that's when it happened. My car drifted too close to the next lane. A sharp honk jolted me back. A red sedan swerved just in time to avoid my front bumper. The driver threw his hands in the air, mouthing words I didn't need to hear to understand. I gripped the wheel tighter, heart pounding, realizing how close I'd come to wrecking everything in one careless second. Not just my car, not just my body, but the last shred of stability my family had left. I pulled over onto the shoulder of the road, and then I broke. my forehead pressed against the steering wheel, my whole chest heaving. I didn't sob loudly. I didn't even make a sound. The tears came quietly, like they were embarrassed to be seen. 15 years of late nights, client dinners, missed birthdays, all condensed into a man hunched over in a parked car, crying where no one could see. When the tears finally dried, there was nothing left. No rage, no fight, just emptiness. I wiped my face with the sleeve of my shirt, put the car back in drive, and pulled back onto the road. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't look at the skyline. I just drove, expressionless, as though I was ferrying someone else's body home instead of my own. When I finally turned onto our street, everything looked the same. The rows of maple trees, the kids' bicycles lying carelessly in the neighbor's yard, the faint sound of a lawnmower somewhere down the block. But inside my chest, nothing was the same. I was coming home, yes, but not as the man who had left that morning. That man had a job. That man had purpose. I parked in the driveway and sat there again, engine ticking softly as it cooled. Through the living room window, I saw the shadow of Caroline moving around. Probably in the kitchen, probably humming the way she always did when she cooked. The smell of garlic and onions would hit me as soon as I opened the door. Normally, that smell meant comfort. Tonight, it meant a question. How would I tell her? I gathered my little box of things from the passenger seat. The framed photo of Ryan and Elsie on the swings, the coffee mug with "World's #1 Dad" printed in fading letters, a couple of folders they hadn't cared to keep. It all felt so small, so insulting. 15 years of work, reduced to what could fit in a shoebox. When I stepped inside, Caroline looked up from the stove. She smiled automatically, then paused when she saw the box in my hands. "You're home early," she said carefully. The kids were at the dining table, heads bent over their homework. Ryan barely glanced up, earbuds still in. Elsie looked at me longer, a little wrinkle forming between her eyebrows, like she could sense something was wrong. I set the box down on the counter and tried to speak, but my throat tightened. I managed to get the words out, flat and hollow. They let me go. The room went still. Caroline didn't gasp. She didn't rush over. She just stirred the pot once more, set the spoon down, and leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "What happened?" she asked, voice steady. I explained in fragments. The automation, the restructuring, the severance. Ryan pulled his earbuds out halfway, muttering, "That sucks," before going back to his laptop. Elsie pushed her math book aside and came to hug me. I held her close, burying my face in her hair, wishing I could stay there forever, wishing I could freeze this one gesture of love before reality sank its claws deeper. Caroline's eyes were on me the whole time. Not cruel, not sympathetic, just calculating. Already weighing what this would mean for bills, for groceries, for the mortgage. She had always been practical. That's why we had survived so far. Dinner was quiet. Too quiet. The clinking of forks against plates felt like the loudest sound in the world. Ryan ate quickly and disappeared upstairs. Elsie tried to tell me about a school project, but Caroline cut her off gently. "Not now, sweetie. Daddy's tired." I wasn't tired. I was hollow. Later that night, after the kids had gone to bed, I lay on my side of the mattress staring at the ceiling. Caroline scrolled on her phone beside me, the blue glow lighting her face. Finally, she put it down and whispered, "We'll manage. I'll take on more clients. You'll find something. We'll manage." But I heard the unspoken words under her promise. And as I lay there, wide awake, staring at the shadows on the ceiling, one thought clawed at me over and over again. How do you wake up with a job and go to bed jobless? How does that make sense? Caroline was supportive. At first, "We'll be okay. You're too good to stay jobless for long." And I believed her. I updated my resume, reached out to old clients, reapplied, reapplied. Nothing. A month passed. Then 2. Then 5. Too much experience. Too senior for our needs. "Have you considered retirement?" Retirement? I was 51, not useless. Caroline's tone started shifting. Subtle at first, but I noticed it in the way she no longer asked about my day. In how she sighed when she paid for groceries. In how the dinners got quieter. Then one night, she came out with it. "I'm carrying this family, Richard. I'm running the business. Handling the kids. Everything." That sentence broke something in me. Not because it was false, but because it was true. I became an Uber driver. There's no shame in honest work, I told myself. But it was a far cry from boardrooms and balance sheets. The tips were small. The hours were long. I added side gigs, offering discounted financial services to small businesses, just to make ends meet. I told Caroline it was temporary. She smiled without her eyes and said, "Sure." The worst part? She wasn't being cruel. She was just tired. We used to fall asleep holding hands. Now, she slept facing the wall. We used to joke. Now, our conversations were checklists. Did you pay for Elsie's school trip? Did you schedule the mechanic for Thursday? Ryan needs money for his lab materials. That was it. No, how are you? No, I miss you. Not even a decent argument. Just silence padded with logistics. I started fantasizing about dying in my sleep. Not because I wanted to die, but because it would be easier than watching the slow drain of someone's love. Knowing it's my fault because I didn't make investments when I had the opportunity. Then came Sophie. She was a passenger. Middle-aged, charming. Had a sharp wit and a warm voice. We talked during the ride. She asked about my job, my family. I told her more than I should have. When she stepped out of the car, she paused. "You seem like someone who used to smile a lot." I don't know why that cut so deep. We started texting, then meeting. Coffee at first, then lunch, then more. It wasn't love. It wasn't even really lust. Nothing happened. It was escape. But it didn't last long. Caroline went through my phone. Not snooping, just looking for a charger, or so she said later. But chargers don't open message threads. Chargers don't scroll. She found our chats, and all hell broke loose. I don't remember the exact words we shouted that night. Only fragments. The sound of glass, or maybe it was the phone, hitting the wall, shattering into pieces. The way her face twisted like she couldn't decide whether to cry or scream.
"So that's where you've been?" She spat, voice cracking. "While I kill myself holding this family together, you're out screwing your pity case. Do you think she actually likes you? You're a jobless joke of a man, Richard. A pathetic excuse for the husband I married." Her words hit harder than any thrown object. I stood there, silent at first, letting her fury tear into me. Because deep down, part of me agreed with her. But something inside me snapped. "Caroline, nothing is going on between us," I shot back. "We just talked." She was someone who actually listened. Someone who didn't look at me like I was already dead. She scoffed. "Listen? That's what you call it now. You don't get it." My voice cracked, louder than I meant. "You treat me like I don't exist. Like I'm just some extra mouth you have to feed. I've only ever loved you. I built this life for us. For you, for Ryan, for Elsie. I gave everything I had to provide for this family. And now that I need my support system the most, you bail on me. You turn your back." Caroline crossed her arms, her eyes hard, glistening but unyielding. "Support system? Don't make me laugh. You want support? Try being the one dragging us through bills and groceries while you sit there sulking about your lost glory days. You want sympathy, Richard? Earn it." Her words left no room for comfort. No crack where understanding might slip through. I stood there, chest heaving, but she had already turned away. To her, the conversation was over. To me, it was a wound that would never close. Silence fell eventually, but not the kind that heals. It was the kind that seeps into walls and lingers like smoke. The kids had heard everything. I knew because Ryan wouldn't look me in the eye the next morning, and Elsie's hug was gone, replaced by a polite distance that gutted me more than the shouting had. From that night on, the house wasn't home. It was a battlefield after the guns go quiet. Scorched earth, nothing left alive. Caroline and I didn't fight again after that. Not because we'd made peace, but because there was nothing left to say. Just silence. We didn't talk for 3 days after that. She didn't kick me out. Didn't throw my clothes out the window. She just ignored me like I was furniture she'd grown tired of. And strangely, things got a little better after that. No, not better, bearable. Maybe seeing me broken evened the scales for her. Maybe it made her feel less like the villain. Or maybe we were just two exhausted people who couldn't afford the luxury of drama. We fell back into routine. I stopped seeing Sophie. Caroline went back to her business. I picked up more clients, more Uber hours. It was survival now. Not partnership, just survival. Then came a sliver of hope. A small Toronto tech startup, VoltCap, was hiring. They needed an experienced accountant to manage their chaotic finances. It wasn't glamorous, and the pay was half what I used to make. But it was structure. It was purpose. I took it. By day, I handled Volt Cap's growing pains. By night, I drove Uber across downtown, dropping drunk university kids and burnout execs at overpriced condos. It wasn't a life, but it was better than the nothing I'd been drowning in. Ryan got into University of Waterloo. Caroline cried when he opened the letter. I didn't. I was proud, of course, but I didn't feel like I had the right. I hadn't paid for the prep classes. I didn't even remember the application deadline. That was all her. At least that's how it felt. And she didn't miss a chance to remind me. I just wish you'd been around more. Present. I wanted to scream. I was there. I just wasn't who I used to be. While I was working at Volt Cap, buried under spreadsheets and late-night reconciliations, I made a friend, Evan. A smooth talker, always with a new scheme up his sleeve. The kind of guy who made you feel like you were standing still while the world was racing ahead. One afternoon over coffee, he leaned in and said, "Richard, you know where the real money is? Livestock. Farming. People don't realize it, but Toronto's outskirts are gold mines if you get in at the right time. Pigs, goats, cattle. It's where the smart guys are putting their money." I laughed at first, but his certainty gnawed at me. He painted it so clearly: steady income from meat sales, a growing demand, land just waiting to be used. For a man who had spent his life staring at numbers, the idea of something physical, tangible, alive, it felt like a way out. That night, I brought it up to Caroline. She was in the kitchen, sorting through invoices for her business, her reading glasses slipping down her nose. "Livestock," she said flatly. She didn't even look up. "Yeah," I said, trying to sound confident. "Goats, maybe pigs. Evan says it's reliable, steady, with the right investment." She cut me off with a sharp laugh. "Richard, do what you like. It's your money. Invest it where you want. Just don't come crying to me when it fails." I don't recall you ever being a farmer. Her words stung, not because she was wrong, but because she didn't even consider that maybe, just maybe, I could make it work. She didn't even give me the dignity of belief. So, I did what any desperate man does when he's drowning. I grabbed onto the nearest branch. I pulled 60% of my savings, years of careful discipline and sacrifice, and funneled it into the purchase of pigs and goats from a man Evan introduced me to. For the first few days, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: hope. Watching the animals settle, hearing them grunt and shuffle in their pens, it was strange, but it was mine. My risk. My future. But then came the hard news. 2 weeks in, the pigs started to cough, a wet, choking sound. Then one refused to eat. A goat collapsed, legs twitching. By the third week, they were dropping one after another, the stench of death replacing that brief glimmer of possibility. They'd sold me sick livestock, diseased from the start. And I, the great accountant, the man who used to audit multi-million-dollar portfolios, hadn't even noticed. I tried to complain, to fight back. I went to the man who sold them to me, voice shaking with fury. But he played on my naivety, shrugged, and told me it was unfortunate bad luck. In the world of farming, he said, losses happen. He even had the nerve to suggest I buy another round, at a discount. Nothing came out of it. My money was gone. My pride along with it. When I came home, Caroline didn't say a word. No "I told you so," no lecture. Just silence. She walked past me as though I was air, her expression unreadable. Somehow, that hurt more than anything else. Her silence was louder than any scream. I sat in the dark that night, head in my hands, and felt something in me crumble. It wasn't just the money I'd lost. It was belief, in myself, in luck, in the possibility that I could claw my way out of the hole life had dug for me. I felt defeated. Completely. Caro Luxe, Caroline's boutique, was thriving by then. But not because of Instagram or hashtags. That was just the storefront. What she never told me, what I later discovered, was that she'd pivoted the business model behind my back. She'd stopped designing and started white labeling. Essentially, she was ordering cheap handbags from Guangzhou factories, slapping her own Canadian luxury brand on them, and selling them for $300 a pop. With the right lighting, packaging, and influencers, no one could tell. And it worked until it didn't. It started small. 2 influencers she worked with began getting heat for selling fake goods. Then came the Shopify chargebacks. Then the lawyers. A real Italian designer claimed she'd stolen their bag design. Not exactly true, but close enough. Her supplier ghosted her when legal threats came through. Payment processor froze her account. Returns flooded in. And just like that, Carl Lux became toxic. By the time she came to me, her voice was ragged. Her hands shook. "Can you help me go through the financials? Something's off." I helped. Of course I did. I was still her husband. Technically, the books were a disaster. No cost tracking. Inflated margins. Too many influencer payouts. Too many refunds. No actual product in hand anymore. It was like watching a ship take on water while the captain just stood there and there was nothing I could do. Around that time, VoltCap hit its own iceberg. They expanded too fast, spent like they were already Series B funded, and folded within a year. Just like that, I was unemployed. Again, Caroline didn't say much when I told her. Just one line. "You really have a gift for losing everything, don't you?" That night, I stared at the ceiling and counted each insult over the past 5 years like tally marks on a prison wall. I had no job, just my savings now. A house I didn't feel welcome in. And 2 kids who slowly stopped asking me for anything. Because they knew who really made things happen. Then one night, curiosity, or maybe madness, got the better of me. I went through Caroline's phone. No real reason. Just a whisper in my head. She's too calm. And I was right. His name was Tarek. Finance bro, sleek, overconfident. Ran some kind of consulting group downtown. I recognized his type instantly. Guys who thought a Rolex and a motivational quote made them men. I scrolled. I saw messages. Photos. Dates. Voice notes. "Wish you were waking up next to me instead. You deserve someone who sees you. Your husband doesn't get you. He never did." They'd been seeing each other for nearly a year. Her friends knew. Her sister knew. They were rooting for her. "You deserve real love." And me? I was a running joke in their group chats. A burden. A has-been. The ghost that still did the dishes. I confronted her that night after I saw the messages from Tarek. I didn't even plan it. The phone was still in my hand when I stepped into the living room where she was folding laundry. My hands were trembling, and my chest felt like it was collapsing in on itself. "Caroline," I said, my voice flat, almost foreign to my own ears. "Who is Tarek?" Her head snapped up. She froze. For a moment, I could see her calculating. Fight or lie, confess or deny. Then she sighed, set down the shirt, and looked me dead in the eye. "You're one to ask?" I blinked. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "You cheated first," she shot back, her voice sharp. "Don't stand there like a saint. I saw the messages, remember? That woman in your Uber. You betrayed me before Tarek ever came along." My blood boiled. "I never slept with her. Never. Nothing happened." She laughed bitterly, a sound that twisted in my gut. "Oh, so now you're going to play technicalities? You think sitting in a stranger's bed, pouring your heart out to her while your wife is at home drowning in bills and responsibilities, that's not cheating?" I felt invisible. "Caroline." The words tore out of me before I could stop them. "You treated me like I was dead to you. I gave you everything. I worked myself to the bone. I provided for you and the kids for years, and when I lost my job, you pushed me away. What was I supposed to do? Rot quietly in the corner of my own home?" Her face twisted, rage and something like contempt flashing across it. "You think you're the only one who suffered? You think I didn't kill myself holding this family together while you were playing taxi driver at night, accountant by day, and God knows what in between? You were pathetic, Richard. A joke. I stopped looking at you like a man the day you stopped being one." Her words hit harder than any punch. I felt my knees weaken, but anger propped me up. And Tarek? Is he a man, Caroline? The one who sneaks into my life through your phone? The one who laughs behind my back with your friends while I'm breaking my back just to keep the lights on? That's your idea of a man. She didn't flinch. He made me feel alive. Something you haven't done in years. With him, I wasn't just someone's mother or someone's wife. I was me again. Her honesty was worse than any lie could have been. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence felt like a noose tightening around the both of us. Then I said it. The words I never thought I'd say. I want a divorce. She didn't gasp. She didn't beg. She just nodded, almost relieved. I was going to ask the same this week. My throat closed. All the fights, the late nights, the loneliness, it was all leading to this. We weren't screaming. We weren't even crying. It was quiet. Surgical. Like two people putting down a dying dog. Just know, I whispered, voice shaking. You were the one who destroyed this family, not me. Caroline stared at me for a long time, her eyes cold, unreadable. Then she turned back to the laundry, as if the conversation had already ended. A week later, we signed the papers. No tears, just signatures and silence. She didn't fight for the house. She didn't have to. I left voluntarily, packed what I could into 2 suitcases, and drove off in silence. I was numb, until I saw Ryan's text the next day. I can't believe you just gave up. You cheated on her. She carried the whole family, and then this. I'm sure the both of you never loved us. You didn't even try to fight for us. And then Elsie's. Are you going to stop sending money too? Or just disappear? That's when the anger stopped being abstract. That's when I started thinking clearly. Divorce didn't feel like freedom. It felt like standing in the middle of a collapsed building, listening for survivors, and realizing it's just you. I moved into my parents' old farmhouse outside Markham. No mortgage, no Wi-Fi, just creaky floors and land nobody cared about. Not even me. The nights were the worst. That's when the memories snuck in. Caroline laughing in our first apartment, Ryan gripping my pinky in the hospital, Elsie making me paper cards that said, "One Dad." I slept with the TV on, just to drown the silence. But eventually, I stopped flinching when I woke up alone. Eventually, I got up earlier, worked longer, thought sharper. Because when you've lost everything, the only thing left to do is build something new. I started small. There was still some fencing on the property, a shed, a water line that barely worked. I fixed what I could, watched YouTube videos for the rest, rented a few goats, then moved to 6 head of cattle just to test the waters. This time, I did it right. I read up on livestock nutrition, weather cycles, cattle behavior, diseases. I partnered with an old friend of my father's who still had a working ranch in Uxbridge. He loaned me equipment in exchange for free accounting work. I bartered like it was the 1800s. And slowly, the money started trickling in. Nothing flashy, but it was honest. And it was mine. Ryan didn't respond to my first 2 emails. Neither did Elsie. So I stopped writing and just started sending money. Not a lot, just what I could. Enough to let them know I was thinking about them. That I was still a father, even if they didn't want me to be. A year passed. Then, an unexpected message from Ryan. "Thanks for the cash, Dad. Helps a lot." No emoji, no warmth. But it was a crack in the door. I didn't push it open. Not yet. However, I had a bone stuck in my throat. Tarek. I couldn't get the name out of my head. Not because he stole Caroline. No, she walked. But because he was the kind of man who preyed on transition. He slid into her life when it was most unstable. Like a wolf sniffing out a wounded deer. I did my research. He ran a boutique consulting firm, Fighty Strategies, out of a WeWork downtown. All smoke and mirrors. Flashy website, generic buzzwords. Sold scaling solutions and culture optimizations to people who didn't know better. Mostly he targeted newly divorced professionals. People with a settlement, no strategy, and a bruised ego. He offered healing. And billed them for the anesthesia. I didn't confront him. That's not how I operate. Instead, I let him think someone else had. I didn't need to bloody my own hands. Men like Tarek are fragile. You just have to know where to press. I reached out to 3 former clients of mine, guys I'd helped pull back from the edge of bankruptcy years ago. They owed me favors. Real ones. The kind of debts you don't pay with a thank you note. I gave them details. Nothing illegal. Just a few personal facts. Where Tarek liked to drink, his favorite rooftop bar, the kind of car he drove, the careless way he flashed money around. Suggested he looked like an easy mark. A week later, it happened. Tarek was cornered in a dim parking garage just outside that rooftop bar. No police report ever made it out. No headlines. No viral clips. But the word filtered back to me. He'd been roughed up badly, wallet gone, watch stripped, left shaken on the ground. He laughed it off in public at first, bragged to friends that he'd been jumped by nobodies. But I knew better, because not long after, the second phase began. Months earlier, in a moment of controlled spite, I'd leaked an anonymous tip to the right inboxes. Tarek slept with his clients. Nothing extravagant, just a quiet whisper, the kind that spreads like poison in his kind of business. At first, no one wanted to believe it. But rumors are patient. They erode trust, grain by grain. One client cut ties. Then another. Meetings got canceled. Contracts dissolved quietly, without explanation. His reputation, once polished, began to curdle. And now, with bruises still fading on his ribs, the whispers had teeth. He wasn't just a charming consultant anymore. He was a liability. Fear took root in him because news of him being involved with so many clients sexually would lead to further loss and confrontations. Every dark street made him look over his shoulder. Every late-night walk to his car tightened his chest. He didn't know if the men would return, if the next blow would be worse. By the time Caroline noticed, it was already too late. Tarek was unraveling. Clients gone, confidence cracked, paranoia gnawing at him. He packed up his life piece by piece, then one day, vanished. No note, no explanation. He ghosted Caroline completely, changed his number, deleted his socials, left her standing in the ruins. I didn't need to lift another finger. Tarek was gone, and Caroline was left alone. She never knew I had anything to do with it. How could? But I did, and it wasn't revenge. It was balance. I didn't gloat, didn't message her. Didn't even change my tone when I texted Elsie happy birthday 2 months later. Caroline eventually closed down Caro Lux. Quietly, without drama. She tried to rebrand, but her reputation was already ash in the wind. You only need one bad Google thread to poison a well. The last I heard, she was working at a retail chain in Scarborough, managing handbags she didn't design for a brand she didn't own. She wouldn't dare ask for my help. Her ego wouldn't allow it. Caroline had built her entire identity around the idea that she was stronger than me, smarter than me, better without me. To crawl back now, to admit she needed the man she'd once mocked as useless, would be swallowing poison. And good for her. Because even if she did, even if she broke down and dialed my number in the dead of night, she'd get nothing but silence from me. No comfort, no rescue, no lifeline. I'd spent years begging for her support and got only contempt. Now it was her turn to drown, and I wouldn't so much as toss a rope. I wanted her to know what real loneliness felt like. I wanted her to feel the cold echo of an empty room, the way I had, night after night. And if she thought of me, if she realized I was out there living, rebuilding, rising again, I wanted her to choke on it. Some days, I drive past the street we used to live on. The lights are always off in her window. I don't smile. I just drive. Elsie called me recently. First time in over a year. Her voice cracked when she said, "I'm sorry for being so cold to you. I just didn't know what to think back then. I didn't ask questions. Just listened. Ryan and I still aren't close. But he sends short updates now. Sends pictures sometimes. One of him in a lab. Another holding a dog I don't recognize. They know I'm here. They know I got up when everything fell. That's enough. People think revenge is fire and blood. But real revenge? It's peace. You tell me, did I go too far? Or did I finally do just enough? If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? If you crave stories that make you question what's right, what's fair, and what's deserved, subscribe. Because this isn't just about revenge, it's about redemption through fire.